Burton, joined by Jerry Hamilton and Rod Babers. It's On Texas Football Sunday Night Live Stream, brought to you by our friends over at the Road Shop. Guys, I tell you what, the big weekend for the Longhorns. I'm back in my house finally after Lone Star Showdown hat from Jerry. Rod and I are rocking the duck cam. Hey, I'm back in the house after a weekend of Ann Arbor, dusting myself off. The Wolverines, though, there was a trail left there by the Longhorns, I think it's safe to say. Texas beat the you-know-what out of Michigan in their own house in front of 111,000 people. Most people in person to ever watch a Texas football game, and it was 24-3 at half. Just saying.
I talked to a good buddy that was at the game, and he thought there were maybe 20 to 25,000 Texas fans in the stadium.
Yeah, I thought I could have said 15 to 25.
Yeah,
it was a significant percentage, but Michigan's got a great home crowd too. By the way, I just want to say this: Michigan fan base, you can come down to Austin anytime. Classic. They were actually very hospitable. They weren't, there were some kids that were all in your face, but by and large, guys, good people, and just wanted to see a good game. Disappointed with the results, but then they didn't take it out on the opposing fan base. At least not where I was at, if that makes sense to you guys. They didn't, nothing at the restaurant afterwards, taunting or anything like that. Just good people and good football. Rod, you did the second watch with Rod Babers. We released that about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. Give people the 4 or 5 things that you kind of recounted that on a second watch, just briefly, if you don't mind. And then we're going to get into some other things coming up. We got the AP poll released. We got the ESPN FPI that came out that has Texas #1, by the way. And then we're going to talk a little college football in general, as well as take your questions. Anything you want to talk about, guys. There's somebody in the chat right now that's, I think, in Chicago, getting ready to go on his way home. Burnt Orange Head said easily 30K fans there. I don't know if it was a third of the stadium, but look, we had over 500 people at the tailgate. Yeah, to give you an idea. I mean, it was a loaded place, great atmosphere. Not only Big Noon, but also ESPN Game Day. I mean, heck, Dave Portnoy was there. I don't know. All over there, right?
Dave Cedar, Michael Phelps. I mean, McConaughey, there were Oscars. There's gold medals. Yeah. Multiple Hall of Famers in different sports, right? I mean,
absolutely. Hey, Rob, what were those 4 or 5 things that we talked about earlier today? Just to recap for people that haven't seen it yet, I would definitely give people a recommendation to go watch that.
Obviously, Bobby and I go into a lot more detail about it in the second watch, but there are a lot of things that stood out to me defensively. The innovation and the creativity and the versatility continues to be something that stands out. We talked about this last week when they broke out the NASCAR dime, package where they used the inverted Tampa 2 within that group, and it was something we hadn't seen on the 40 acres. And I thought maybe that was matchup specific. Maybe Colorado State air raid team, they want to break out something exotic for them. Turns out, no, that is something that may be their go-to third down package, which I saw a lot even in the Michigan game. And we also saw more versatility overall from the defense. I mean, I saw them break out the bear front, the penny front with the tight front to kind of load up against the box a little bit and stop the run. They were in a 4-3, 3-4, 3-3-5, 4-2-5. I saw at one point. I mean, they played the NASCAR dime. I just haven't seen the defense this multiple. Honestly, in a long, long time. I don't know if we've ever seen a defense this multiple. They've had the versatility of athletes to do it, I think, before. But now, not only are they prioritizing the athletes, but you can see more and more they want to weaponize those guys in versatile roles. So they got a lot of defensive linemen are playing multiple shades. A lot of those guys playing multiple shades. Love the way they're using Colin Simmons as a Sam at times and moving him around a little bit. Of course, Anthony Hill moves around to the edge and he mugs from that off-ball linebacker position at times. And of course, the secondary is where it starts. So Sark's buzzword from the offseason, it's not just coach speak, man. Versatility in scheme, but also in development of players. And I think pretty soon, I think we're already seeing it in recruitment of players. They're going to be something that they value and prioritize. But I just love the way the DBs played, man. The DBs, guys, they're going to be a strength this year. I mean, we were talking all offseason about whether they were going to be, a liability or a strength or potentially with this team. There's no doubt that group's going to be a strength, and they led the way. They're the ones who are making a lot of the havoc plays, getting a lot of takeaways, guys running the alley, being physical. Even Sark gave them a shout out in the post game. So that's what I love about the defense, the versatility. Offensively, Sark was motivated in his bag. We talked about it, and you can go listen to Second Watch and get the numbers. But one of the kind of vital signs of Sark's offense is pre-snap motion. It's a conceptual signature. It's something you see a lot of in his offense. And usually he's around, on average, 55%, somewhere around there, maybe a little above 55%, just throughout the years for the last 3 years. But in really big games, his vital signs increase. It's like he's really excited. Like his heart rate goes up, right? Pre-snap motion rates, they skyrocket. And he had his second highest rate of pre-snap motion in this game that I've been calculating since he's been on campus on the 40 acres. But more importantly, that was the targets to motion. And that is when you target a player in motion prior to the snap or at the time of the snap. And that's really a deep dive, kind of more in-depth way to look at those conceptual signatures, those vital signs I'm talking about. And just listen to these numbers. So targets to motion, the highest targets to motion since Sark has been here versus Alabama in 2023 last season. He's really hype about that game, big game. His second highest targets to motion, Big 12 title game. You're at 10 of them. So you're at 11 in that Alabama game in 2023. You're at 10 of them in that Oklahoma State game, that Big 12 title game, big game, championship game. And then 9 versus Bama in 2022 versus Kansas in 2021. Fighting for your life, right? That was the biggest upset in Big 12 history. So he's like, I'm pulling everything out of my bag I got. And Michigan this past game.
And Rod, I wanted to add something that now that you said that I didn't mention in your rewatch video. That was also really just one half of play for the offense.
Yes, it was.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because not that Sark, quote unquote, called off the dogs. They still ran the offense. But he didn't have to go in his bag in the second half.
No.
Totally agree. Look.
All right. Good stuff, Rod. The other thing that Rod had, Jerry, hold on one second. The supreme confidence in Quinn was another thing, Rod, that you talked about. And I want to add in this. Some people are already showing up. And, Jerry, you actually were the one that sent this to our group text, I think, today. The race for the Heisman is officially on for Quinn Ewers. And, Rod, you talked about Quinn showing that. Supreme confidence, or Sark showing supreme confidence, and Quinn is good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right, hey
Bobby,
Jerry, go for it now, buddy.
So look, going into this game, what we talked about, Rod, first down run defense, right? Michigan had 9 first down runs for 40 yards. Okay, 3.7-ish a pop. One of those was on a 1st and 15, so that was a 6-yard gain. But they didn't have a gain over 6 yards on first down. So they didn't have any explosive runs. They didn't move the chains on first down at all. They didn't really have any big plays in their running game on first down. So did Texas play perfect against the run? No, Michigan's good. They're a good team. They got good players. They got a bunch of NFL players too. But 3.5 on average per rush on first down is in the wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Because that means they're not sitting at 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3. Texas did enough on first downs and run defense to force Michigan's hand a little bit. They're only run over 10 yards on a second down runner on first or second down, but first down run defense was good enough, and Texas allowed no sacks, guys, in that game.
Big
0 sacks in that game.
Yeah, that's huge.
And Quinn stepped.
You won the line of scrimmage. Period.
Yep.
Texas stepped up. I tell you what, when they pulled Jake Majors and Hayden Connor. And Jarrett Gibson that thing was wide,
wide. Busted open.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we're going to take y'all's questions, talk about recruiting. There's been some big movement right on the heels of the game yesterday. Myron Charles out of Port Charlotte flipped his pledge from Florida State to Texas. We're going to talk about that. Adam Lane's got a question in about Michael Terry, big athlete out of San Antonio, Alamo Heights that was up at the Nebraska-Colorado game. And then also Javion Hilson, edge player out of Cocoa. We mentioned him last week, guys, as somebody Texas might be, looking at. He decommitted from Florida State earlier today, said he's going to announce in December. We'll talk a little bit about that and maybe some other Florida State commitments, as well as a Florida commitment that Jerry says is now visiting. Just a lot of recruiting news. We'll get to that tonight as well. Let's first do this, Rod B. and Jerry. Let's show the AP poll that came out earlier today, because I think it was very, very interesting. The Longhorns jump. Ohio State moved to number 2 overall behind Georgia only. But, what do y'all say? I mean, Ohio State beat a, directional school. Alabama had to, fourth quarter. It felt like a little bit, from what I heard, a Wyoming type Texas game a year ago, where Alabama took control in the fourth quarter and didn't look back. But pretty good list there. Texas jumps Ohio State. Any thoughts from either you, Jerry, or Rod on that?
Yeah, I mean, my thought is oof for Oklahoma right now. If I'm looking at this schedule, I mean, they got 3 or 4. They got Tennessee coming up, who's I think may dot them in Norman pretty good based on what I watched with Tennessee yesterday and what we've not seen from Oklahoma through 2 miserable games of offense. And that's one. Obviously, then you have Missouri with Oklahoma. Then you have Alabama with Oklahoma. Then you have Texas with Oklahoma. Man, their schedule's tough. That Tennessee game is going to loom large for Oklahoma for me, because then they go to Auburn, and I know Auburn threw 5 interceptions yesterday, but Auburn will be ready. They'll play a better game. If they have another 5 interception game. But so that was one of my thoughts is, man, Oklahoma's schedule looks really tough, because I see them sitting there at 13 in the coaches poll. They're not playing at that level at all.
What did they beat? What did they beat Houston by yesterday? 16-14?
16-12, and they got outgained.
Yeah.
16-12 when they got outgained. I mean, they have offensive line issues. They have quarterback issue. I think we talked about going into the season. But as far as Texas goes, I mean, look, there's not much more you can ask for right now. I think the level Texas is playing at, and I like what Coach Sark said. And I know people in the chatter, what's our focus going to be? What's the focus going to be for UTSA? Look, are you going to come out with the same emotion you came out of the Michigan game with? No, Rod knows this. He played. It's sometimes it's just impossible. But this is not the same Texas or the same UTSA as 2 years ago. I mean, UTSA is going to take it on the chin Saturday unless Texas turns it over 8 times. I mean, that's just the reality of that game. And ULM Monroe is a little – they're a little improved, but they're probably going to take one on the chin too, because Texas just has better players. Texas is a really fast team, and they're big. And I think the great thing coming up is we're going to get to see a lot of the kids, and we're going to get to see a lot of the depth continue to be developed on this team coming out of this. But as far as the AP poll guys, I mean, boy, tough sledding in the SEC.
I was going to say, look at this, Rod. Get your question to comment on this. 6 of the top 7 teams in the country, according to the AP poll, are from one conference. 6 of 7. You could literally could be what, 40th percentile in your conference and be in the top 5 percentile in the country. How about that?
No,
that's like going to like an unbelievable high school and then not, being in the top 40% in a high school, but you'd be like in the top 5% in another high school, because you're just going to school with a bunch of smart kids. But what do you think of this? I mean, 6 of the top 7, isn't that kind of outrageous?
Well, you plays 5 of them, Rod.
Yeah, and honestly, that's why I think in the college football playoff, when it comes down to it, unless there's just true cannibalization of the SEC, I think ultimately you end up with 5 teams from the SEC in that 12-team playoff. It just seems like they're going to get the benefit of the doubt. If it works out all right, it could. Like I said, it could be worst case scenario, but it seems right now you're going to get a good at least 4, but I think maybe even 5 from the SEC potentially. in that 12-team playoff. It's crazy.
Hey, by the way,
look, they're not the number 8 team on. Let's just take this down. Other than Ohio State, who dispatched with their team with ease, number 8 Penn State struggled against Bowling Green on Saturday. Oregon struggled with Boise State, which is a good team.
Maybe the best running back in the country.
Yep, good team, but fair is fair. Oklahoma State had to go to what was it? Double overtime, single overtime against Arkansas to win.
Gave up 600 yards almost at home. Should have lost.
Yep, and then Utah got by Baylor, but may have, I don't know how bad Cam Rising's injured again. So look, I think that the SEC right now clearly in there. All right, another thing I wanted to bring up is the ESPN FPI, which is a little bit different. Before we do that, though, Rob, will you please do us a favor and talk about our friends over at rogueshop.com?
Yes, sir. Happy to do it. Really excited about our partnership with our friends over at rogueshop.com. Rogue Shop bringing you real plant medicine back to its roots, folks. Rogue Shop ships nationwide, so make sure you use the promo code ONTexas. You'll get a special discount with that code ONTexas. The Rogue Shop has it all, folks, from oils and creams to flour and gummies, whatever you need. Again, that's rogueshop.com. Use the code ONTexas, and you'll get a special discount from our friends over at rogueshop.com. We're really grateful for them for sponsoring our Sunday night live stream.
Appreciate them very much. All right, Matt, our producer, will you please bring up the ESPN FPI? And when he does, there's going to be a team that's number 1 that is not Georgia. It is not Ohio State. It's the Texas Longhorns, guys. Good stuff here for the Longhorns. It brings up this part. If you see this projected win-loss in that second to last column, Rod and Jerry, I think we can tie this into another discussion. What does this do with y'all's projected win-loss total for the year? I mean, Michigan was one of my losses for the Longhorns, and I went 10-2. What does this do with you guys and your predictions? I guess do I move it up to 11-1 now? Is that what I should do?
I said after Bama last year, if Texas won at Bama, I'd adjust from 10-2 to 11-1, and I'm doing the same this year. You win at Michigan, you win the road game against a quality opponent. It may not be the national champion Michigan, but Michigan didn't run out from under the tunnel on those 85,000 Michigan fans and think they're going to get their butt kicked. So that's a quality win against a team that has a bunch of NFL draft picks. I'm not sure their culture is going to hold up. We'll see on that. But I'm moving it to 11-1. I think this FPI will just bounce back and forth, though. Look, Georgia goes on the road and plays, even though Kentucky got smashed. Kentucky has a lot of injuries right now. Georgia goes on the road and wins against an SEC opponent. Texas hosts the UTSA at home. That thing's going to flip-flop, right, a lot early in the season until these two teams meet. And Georgia does have the road trip to number 3, Bama, 2 weeks before Texas.
Yeah, a loss to anybody other than Georgia right now for Longhorn fans will be considered unacceptable. So that's why it's the only loss that they'll stomach, considering we've seen what the team is capable of this early in the season, because the belief is that they're going to get better week to week. They get better week to week. There's no telling what the ceiling is for this team. If they're if they're getting better week to week and Quinn continues to get better, that's a scary thought for the rest of college football. Should be anyway.
Especially if Sark keeps dialing it up.
Oh,
guys,
man.
My number one takeaway from yesterday was just how, I mean, look, Rod, you and Jerry and Coach Shipley, Coach Irwin, one of the things y'all have been talking about we started this, a year and a half ago, this channel, Jerry and Rod. We talked about playing complementary football. Wasn't that complementary football to a T on Saturday? I mean, literally was. Your offense used all the tricks of the trade to get up. Your defense then was super versatile and took away the opponent's strengths in the run game. I mean, what else? That's what we've been calling for. Some people think others may have had a little sour grapes, including our friend Davis Warren, the quarterback at Michigan. His post-game comments. I think Matt, our producer, can pull these up, the actual clip of it. But Rudy Serta asked, what do y'all think about Warren's post-game comment? And could you tell Texas was loose and ready to go at the tunnel And Michigan was a little nervous. I'll say this about Michigan. When you change head coaches, I don't care who you are, and I don't care when it happens, there is a different feel in the locker room. You can try to make it the same feel, but when there's a new guy in charge, it's different. It's the same when you change quarterbacks, by the way, in my opinion. It's a different team. Here's what Davis warned. I think this is sour grapes, so I'm going to let you guys judge for yourself. Thanks, Rudy, for the super chat.
All execution by us. I didn't do enough. I shot us in the foot too many times. And we didn't do enough offensively to, and it was on us. They're a good football team. They played well today, but we shot ourselves in the foot and let them win that football game. And I think, we do some things differently. I do some things differently, and that's a closer game in the fourth quarter. And then, it's whoever's, makes the most plays in the fourth quarter. And those are the type of games that we want to be in. And we knew it was going to be a tight game. And then, we let them off too easy. So it's a really crappy feeling because we knew that I know that this room, this offense, this team has what it takes to win that football game, and we didn't do it. So just a lot of reflection, a lot of things we need to work on, a lot of things I need to work on, and I'm confident though that we're gonna do those things. We're gonna face adversity right in the face. I mean, we haven't lost, a regular season game here in a while, so I think everyone is taking it super seriously. We're the only people that are gonna come back into Shem on Monday are the guys who are going to want to put the work in to be better and are going to know that we have what it takes and have full confidence in this team to make it happen because we're better than what we showed today. And
I got to be honest, that we let them win. We let them win. I know what he's trying to say, but that didn't come out right because he was talking about making it a close game, and we knew it was going to be a close game. It was 31-6, baby. In the fourth quarter. I don't know what part of close that would be in my estimation, but at the same time, young guy going for his team. I get it. It just did the Wolverines did not let Texas win that game. The Texas Longhorns took Michigan, and this is from our friend UT boy. Wait a minute. Here's the one from UT boy. Woodshed, Texas is where Michigan went this week. that wasn't happening. That wasn't happening. But, good stuff. All right, we're going to take y'all's questions, try to get to them. Jerry, I'm going to start with you because we got a number of recruiting questions. And, Jerry, from this, let's start here and try to do rapid fire a little bit. Was the Myron Charles flip an emotional flip, in your opinion?
No, it would have been right after the Georgia Tech game. Texas has been talking with Charles for a while. Sit on it, think about it, have more conversations. Let's continue to talk about this thing. If it had been right after the Georgia Tech game or something, yeah. But no, this was kind of this was baking for a little bit. I talked to Myron a couple times, and he's still saying. I talked to him today, in fact, and he's still saying he's going to come for the Georgia game. I know Texas is trying to get him on campus there. They have another off week as well, or they have an off week. So we'll see when he gets back on campus. But no, it wasn't. In fact, I think Texas may have slowed that down to everybody collect their thoughts. Let's continue to have conversations about this and then make that official when you want to make it official.
I thought that was good because to your point, it happened right after the game. And so you think it might be, but the idea that he done it, he's also – I will say this. He's also friendly, at least. I don't know if friends is the right term, with Josiah Sharma, who decommitted from Oregon and ended up.
Yeah, Myron told me today that he told Sark Friday, at some point Friday, that he was gonna flip.
Okay,
there you go. That's
nice.
Was it before he was on the tarmac in Ann Arbor or after?
Yeah, I don't know that.
Jerry, this one's from Adam Lane. Adam, thank you for your super chat the other day. We could not get to it because Jerry wasn't there, so I wanted to come back to it today. Thanks for reminding us. Regarding Michael Terry, the athlete out of San Antonio, Alamo Heights, no, he was impressed by Nebraska, but did he see the UT game, and where is he now in his recruitment?
Yeah, was at Nebraska, Colorado this weekend. Obviously, Colorado, Nebraska is putting the hard sell on. Come play as a true freshman. Come play with Dylan Raiola. Play wide receiver at Nebraska. And look, I'm at the point of this. If a kid doesn't want to come to Texas, then oh well. Texas is going to get really, really, really good players. And I'm not saying Michael Terry doesn't, but I'm just at the point of, you know what, this staff's recruiting at a high level. They're developing. Players are getting better. I mean, at some point you're just like, all right, but no, Texas and Michael Terry, I do expect him to get back on campus for a game. Look, Michael Terry's timeline for his decision, we've been talking about this for months, has been all over the place. And I'm not saying that bad. It's just, he was originally thinking January, the Adidas game in San Antonio, because he's from San Antonio. A lot of people could be there. Then bumped it back, maybe September. Now it's gone both back and forth. November, September, January. So I think that once this recruitment's in the balance, I think it'll play out a little while. And I expect him back on campus in Austin sooner, probably rather than later. And I do think those are the two teams right now. I think Oregon, Will Stein's done a really good job. But I think distance from home is a lot to overcome there. But Texas will, they'll recruit this guy through the whistle. He's a tremendous athlete, and we'll see where the chips fall on him.
Okay, a couple more here for you on a single player. John says, "Sup boys? Javion Hilson, the defensive end from Cocoa, just decommitted from FSU. Only a matter of time now." And then also we're asked here, how are we looking for Javion Hilson from Matt? What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, so the one thing I can say is Texas has been talking to Hilson. Hilson is talking about getting on campus for a visit during the season. The other question is, would Texas take a third edge in this class? Absolutely, they take Javion Hilson. If a top 100 level kid in the country out of Cocoa, Florida if he ever wants to commit to Texas isn't turning that guy down. He's very talented. That's a state Texas is really having success in, especially I want Texas to offer more guys in Georgia and Florida, but Florida, especially right now, Florida State struggling. Florida maybe going through a coaching change. Big game in the Swamp Saturday, by the way. That's actually a big game for a multitude of reasons. But we'll see what happens there. But Texas needs to recruit more guys in Florida. I mean, see what Miami does with their season. But when two of those three programs have some issues, like they do right this season, and Florida has under Billy Napier, then those kids will leave the state. And it's similar. It's a similar state to Texas and Georgia. All these kids are in Florida. They didn't necessarily grow up in Florida. So you just have to see what happens. But Texas has been talking with Hilson for a while since he committed to FSU. Texas does not back off those guys. They continue to recruit him, and I do expect him on campus this season. He says he's make a decision in December. We'll see if it plays out that long or not. But December 4th is obviously signing day. This year it moved up 2 weeks.
Hey, the game Jerry was referencing, by the way, the Aggies go to Gainesville.
That's a big game, guys. I mean, we can get into some of that stuff, but look, I don't want to say it's a must-win for A&M, but it would sure be a lot better for them if they won this game, because Arkansas, I'm not sure Arkansas, how good they are yet. I'm not talking like an 8 or 9 win team. I'm talking being a bowl team. But I can tell you this, they have the offense to score on A&M in that neutral site game this year. So Texas A&M, and I think Texas A&M has Bowling Green, who just scared Penn State. But this is a big game. And Billy Napier, obviously, if he loses this game, I don't think he's the head coach by midseason. If you start off and you win Sanford and you lose 2 home games to Miami and A&M, then it's just a matter of when they tell you it's done. So it's a big game. Look, and the other thing I would say is if Florida beats A&M, man, I mean, there's going to be a run of collies dropped off at animal shelters without collars in Texas.
All right. This one, Rod B., I'm going to ask you this question from our friend Todd Lacey. Guys, what does Texas do strategy-wise versus UTSA? Roadrunners got ran out of.
Oh, man, Texas State. Ooh, they whipped them.
Wherever they played that game, 49-10. Texas State, G.J. Kinney won the battle of the next Baylor head coach there between he and Jeff Traylor. Does Sark show more looks to put on tape, both offensively and defensively, Rod, or does he go with a more conservative approach? Your thoughts. Thanks, Todd, for the question.
Yeah, that's a good question, Todd. I think at this point the coaches, like I thought defensively they'd be more conservative versus Colorado State, and they weren't. I mean, they showed you a lot, and I don't know if this staff is overly concerned with teams knowing what they do because they do it so well. And I think right now it's out there what Sark does, right? Sark, he's not giving up the pony package. You're gonna see the pony package. You're gonna see empty formation. He threw that out there a lot. You're gonna see 11 and 12. And, he's going to be heavy RPO, heavy play action pass, heavy screen game. I mean, Sark's tendencies are out there now. And honestly, at this point, I don't think he is overly concerned with not showing, not giving up different, tendencies and strategies to their opponent because, I mean, he's got 3 years on film now. Continuity. He brags about continuity, and also that continuity makes it easier for opponents to understand, okay, this is what they're bringing to the table. Defensively, you just brought in Johnny Nansen, so that's a little new. When they brought in Brennan Marion, they started incorporating some of that go-go offense in. That's what really boosted the pony package. But honestly, I've been tracking Sark's offenses, and the identity of them right now. I mean, we know the identity of the Sark offense. All of y'all right now listening and watching, you probably can break it down for me too. Like, yeah, he likes this, he likes that. These are the tendencies. I think at this point, Sark, he's talked about this. He wants to be able to do as many things as possible, as well as possible. To not only because it makes them tougher to defend, but guys, I've said this before, it makes your opponent waste so much time trying to project and predict and anticipate how you're actually going to attack them. Because you never really know with Sark. Is he going to lean on the 6-0 line package, which, by the way, we haven't even seen this year. I haven't even really seen the Big 11, Big 12. Have y'all seen it? I can't remember seeing the Big 11, Big 12. Right?
I think we saw it 1 or 2 plays with Malik Agbo against Colorado State.
Against Colorado State, yeah. Like it's so.
We didn't see it on Saturday. We didn't see it Saturday.
Yeah. Is he gonna? We thought the pony package would die. It didn't die because of the depth at running back. So I don't think Sark's hiding anything. I think more. I think he's gonna lean on the other end of the spectrum where he's gonna give you so much. Basically so many different formations, so many different personnel packages, and so much to prepare for that you're probably gonna be chasing ghosts most of the week. And I think he'd rather you waste time trying to anticipate what he's going to do rather than, try to surprise you with some concept you haven't seen or unfamiliar with.
I tell you what, we're entering a stage right now with Texas, and give me y'all's thoughts on this in a second. You remember when Colt McCoy kind of turned the corner and that Texas team became a machine after that win over OU, came back real quick and beat the out of Missouri. I want to see if we see Texas offensively at least enter that phase of their life, right? Because I think, and I could be wrong, I think they're on the precipice of that. And the reason why I say that is because once it hit and Quinn starts moving up in the pocket, finding second and third receivers, different ball game for anybody trying to recruit him. Hey, Jerry, do me a favor, please, and tell folks about Duck Camp, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Bobby and Rod have the Duck Camp hats on tonight. Duck Camp is gear made for the people that live in the moments out there, where there are fish to catch on Lake Palestine, birds to hunt, time to kill, football to watch. They like doing all that stuff. So they built a company centered on it, based in Austin, and dedicated to giving people best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel. There are those of you out there who look forward to opening day of hunting season and the kickoff of Longhorn football with the fervor and excitement of a 5-year-old on Christmas morning. I think that was Bobby Burton on the live stream Saturday morning, by the way. And Duck Camp is here to let you know that from opening day to game day, Duck Camp's got you covered. At Duck Camp, they believe you can't just sit around and wait for the adventure to come to you. You got to get out there, stay out there, and make the most of every second, as 25,000 plus Texas fans did in the big house Saturday. Here's the great seasons, y'all. Yes, hunting and football. Shop hunting gear at duckcamp.com.
Thanks, Jerry. I appreciate that. Hey, let's go to Jose Rodriguez real quick because he's got another good one. And Jerry, I want to get your thoughts on this one. I think Sark got started at the perfect time. And the reason I want to go to Jerry is because I think this ties in recruiting in a huge way and player development and talent acquisition, that kind of thing. I couldn't imagine where we'd be if we started behind like A&M has and OU. They might get left behind. I want to say this. A&M was ahead of Texas.
Yeah.
From a talent acquisition perspective and squandered their opportunity.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
So is this the perfect time? Like Sark got started just at the right time? Or was Sark so good that he accelerated the timeline? Which I think I may be more in that framework now. Because if you would have told me Texas would be in the college football playoffs in Sark's third year, I would have signed up for that the minute he was hired. You know?
Well, or this, Bobby, after giving up 50 plus and losing to Kansas in overtime, you'd have definitely taken it, right? In year 3. But here's the way I look at it. And to Jose Rodriguez's point and to Bobby's point, A&M had a shot there. You have a window, and that window opens, right? And they did not jump through it, and they didn't go maximize it. They had bad culture under Jimbo. A lot of those kids off that 2022 recruiting class, the number 1 class, best class of all times in terms of rankings, are long gone. Some of those guys are gone from a second school at this point, right? So that class did not pan out. You end up with a coaching change. And the interesting thing with that is Sark's success at Texas, his timeline of success accelerating, forced A&M to fire Jimbo before he had a chance to win at LSU last year. Everything got accelerated. And I'm here to tell you this too. To this point, Sark's winning Saturday, who does that put more pressure on? Brent Venables in Norman. That puts a lot more pressure on Brent Venables because he went year 1 to year 2. He had improvement there, right? You got a contract extension. Can't afford to have one of those 7-5 and 6-6s right now if you're OU. Texas is continuing to put the foot on the accelerator. I'll tell you the other thing, though, that Sark is, and this goes to the credit of recruiting, but whenever you have, think about the stamps of approval in recruiting. When the Manning family says, yep, when Quinn Ewers transfers from Ohio State to Texas, that was a big deal because a lot of kids were still leaving the state. There was a lot of talk about it, and kids are always going to leave the state because a lot of kids don't grow up in this state, right? Nowadays, they moved in, just like they have Atlanta area in areas of Florida. But Quinn Ewers coming back home was a big deal. Texas not going to plan B on the offensive line in the 2022 class was imperative and a really big deal because they could have filled up that class with pretty good players, but you wouldn't have Kelvin Banks and Cam Williams right now as your starting tackles, who are going to be – could they both be first-round picks? We'll see. It's not out of the question, I'll tell you that. So – but Manning coming in then after that. The stamps of approval. You know, Texas got their must-get recruit last year in Colin Simmons, and what's he having? An impact right away. He is a edge rusher talent that Texas hasn't had. But then you have the culture. I think the thing is the player development. Sark's knocked it all out of the park. But to Jose Rodriguez's question, so much is about timing. So much is about timing. We talk about this. And not that this was Sark got off of the job, but if you go look at Urban Meyer when he took jobs, look at the timing of when he took those jobs. What about timing when coaches get out? When did Harbaugh get out? These guys know when to leave. They know to get out. Okay? They know when it's going to crumble. They leave. It was really good timing. Obviously, LSU goes through a coaching change as well. So you've had A&M, Oklahoma, and LSU all go through coaching changes around Sark's build of Texas. Saban retires now. There's been a lot of change, and if you're winning like Texas is during that change, and not just winning, but by developing players, getting some major stamps of approval and recruiting from a national perspective, that kind of keeps you accelerating. And the biggest thing Sark has done for me, when you take a job, you start with a vision. Rod was recruited through Mack Brown's vision. But how quickly that vision turns into reality is the key. And Sark turned it into reality in year 3. And he's continuing it on this year. And so that's the biggest thing in recruiting because you don't have all the time in the world to turn the vision into reality. And they've turned it into reality. And you're going to see another top 5 recruiting class. It'll be 4 in a row. And what more can you ask? You're a blue blood in the portal and you're recruiting at the top 5 level every year. Your quarterback, I mean, Diabell went off Friday, guys. Go watch his huddle. If they lost, Chaminade Madonna has the best junior running back in the country probably. And they're very talented at Chaminade Madonna, but Diabell in 26 looks tremendous too, by the way. Quarterback room, solid.
Yeah, I agree with you about A&M perhaps missing their window. The loss to Notre Dame this year. Look, all those defensive line getting ready to be gone. Jerry, you know it as well as I do. Wegman has not looked himself, although he apparently looked better against McNeese on Saturday. We can talk a little bit more about that. Hey, Rod, what do you think about Jerry's comment there? That I'm back and forth on. Yes, it's timing, to Jose and Jerry's point, but I also think Sark flipped the script faster than expected and almost in an ideal way, too, and now has them ready to go quicker than expected. That's just my opinion. Like, I did not expect Texas to be, when he was hired, I did not expect Texas to be in the college football playoff in three years. I was hoping they would win a Big 12. You know what I mean? Because I knew they didn't have the talent necessarily that they would need to compete on the highest level. So you think he's accelerated that timeline? I mean, I don't know. If you're buying stock, I don't know, in college, a college football team right now, you would be buying Texas Longhorn stock.
Yeah.
And that's because of Sark. What are your thoughts, Rod?
I do. I think it's both. You got to give Sark his credit. There's no doubt. But the timing it's perfect timing. It really is. I mean, the transfer portal and, obviously the NIL being the law of the land is a big part of it too, right? That happened was it 2018, 2019, that movement starts happening, the player empowerment era. These are things that I think some coaches were reluctant to accept and embrace. And not only did Sark embrace them, but you probably can make the argument that this is something that actually has helped accelerate Sark's reinvention of the program, because he has been so authentic and he is so genuine with the players. And in an era where the players get to pick, they always got to pick, but then the coaches had more control. They have less control now about the players and their freedom and their freedom to move, and their obviously the freedom to capitalize on the free market. And I don't know if Sark loves it all or agrees with all of those, the new laws and everything with NIL and the transfer portal rules, but he has embraced them and they have helped them tremendously. So I think him being progressive in that, and I think him as an offensive mind, I mean, like I said, I get to track it all, and I kind of watch his growth. Sark has evolved as a coach, guys. So this is not the same coach, not the same man that he was when he coached Texas to 5-7. He's consistent. He's consistent in his vision. He's consistent in his beliefs. He's consistent in his culture. He is, but he's also evolved as a coach. Real time. I'll give you a prime example. The 3 high safety defense. Y'all remember when I first came in here, how often I had to tell you guys that it was a great defensive counter to Sark's RPO vision for an offense. It counted really well, and he had trouble trying to come up with an antidote. But he sat down one offseason, 2 off seasons ago, and figured out, all right, you know what? What's my approach to solving the 3 high defense? And last year he did. And he had to solve it because he faced it half the damn season last year. If he didn't solve it, they wouldn't have won the Big 12 title because it was so prominent in the Big 12. And that's just like one example that he solved the problem and figured it out. I think he's working on other things. Like we saw when his team couldn't finish games. That was a big issue. Like, man, Sark's teams can't finish games. He gets up in these big leads and they collapse and they don't seem to be able to close in the fourth quarter. I don't know if this is a 4-quarter team. I don't think they're a 4th-quarter team. And then what did Sark say he did? He changed his practices. He started talking to the guys about finishing. I remember JT Sanders saying, "Yeah, we know people think that we got a reputation that we don't finish games. We're gonna address that in the season." And they addressed it in 2023. So it's a finish game. They developed the clutch gene. That didn't come out of nowhere. There was a coincidence. Sark I would say coaches are problem solvers. Sark saw the problem and he solved it. All right, how do I make this team a 4th-quarter team? And he's done that. And I think so it's a lot of different things that I can see that I can point to as growth and evolution for him. And I think that's also part. That's what we got to give him credit for. Because if he's not growing and evolving with, whether it's the schematics or the strategy or the tactics or overall, just the culture period, I think ultimately, I don't know if he achieves success this quickly, as Bobby's pointed out. So a lot of it's on Sark, but the timing, it's perfect. You're right, Jerry. I mean, when all these powers are down and now recruiting is nationalized, I can go to Florida when Florida's got 2 powers down. I can go there when California, they don't really have any powers dominating. Okay, well, I can go steal some of that. That's what's perfect about it, is that now he can go cherry pick as long as he's winning and showing that the formula works. And right now the formula works. And I see why they bet on themselves. They're not worried about recruiting in September and August. They're not really worried about it because they know that's when they'll bet on themselves and then they'll let the product speak for itself. And I like that mentality.
They go win national games. They go win national games like against Alabama and Michigan back-to-back years. That will be amplified.
Exactly.
Look, that's road games too, Bobby. That's not. I mean, look, they got close against Bama, obviously in 2022, but that's road games. I mean, do we realize, because somebody asked Sark in the presser, and it was funny. Sark responses, y'all have Google it. Y'all tell me. Quinn is the only quarterback in college history that's won at Alabama and at Michigan. Joe Burrow was a backup at Ohio State, didn't play for Ohio State, obviously won at Alabama, at LSU, so he was on teams that beat Alabama and Michigan on the road. Quinn's the only guy that's done it. So Texas is entering some of these territories, right, those are really big calling cards. But I want to say this. I want us to all talk about this for a second. And I know we got super chats. Thank you so much to you guys, as always, man. We're having a lot of fun with you guys. We're getting to meet a lot of you guys. But let's go talk player development. I want to go bring 3 guys up. Jake Majors, Gunnar Helm, and Barron Sorrell. There continue to be calling cards, 2-3 guys every year for Sark's player development and the staff's player development. And I know Jake Majors was ranked a 4-star guy. I was at ESPN Under Armour. He had him in the Under Armour game. He wasn't, he didn't play center, though. That was kind of the thing with him. But he still had to develop at that position. Gunnar Helm, 3-star recruit, develop. Barron Sorrell was once committed to Northwestern, a high 3-star recruit, but player development. And now those guys are leaders. They're not only developing, Rod, they're leaders of your program. They're captains on your team. And I mean, I know y'all watched the game back. Jake Majors is huge in communication last year at Alabama. And I thought he was in total control again Saturday against Michigan.
Yep. Against the best D-tackle duo in the country and against the guy that's going to be the top guy drafted at that position. He made money. You're right. Gunnar Helm made money. I thought Barron Sorrell did too. And I love what you said about, because what Sark has proven is that not everybody's trajectory and rate of development needs to be the same in the program. Yes, there will be guys
succeed.
Yes.
To succeed, not just to be there, but they actually can succeed 4 years later as opposed to year 1 and still be worthwhile.
That's exactly right. Because that's what everybody thinks, right? I come in like Xavier Worthy, I get 1,000 yards receiving as a freshman, and I leave in 3 years. Like, that's not everybody's story. That's not how it works out. Everybody's got a different rate of development. Everybody's got a different trajectory. And I think that's what Jerry's pointing out, is that no, there will be those Bijans and the Xavier Worthies and those high level guys. But even Quinn's rate of development has been a little different. I think everybody thought he would be on an accelerated path, and turns out that was not the case at all. And now look at him, right? Look at him. And I think now that's going to lend even more credibility to Sark's system with quarterbacks. Like, nah, man, if you're patient, I can help you achieve your best version of yourself and get to the highest levels of success as a QB.
Hey, look at DeMarvion Overshown today for the Cowboys. Came in as a safety, waited his turn, ended up being a linebacker. Played pretty well for the Cowboys today. Hey, a couple other questions that we have here that we want to get to. Thank y'all so much for the super chats as well as just the general questions. Football Junkie, are you guys concerned with the pass rush? I would love to see Simmons and Hill coming off the edges on obvious passing downs. Both are very twitchy. I want to add another pass rush question in here too from Sinbad, Football Junkie, because I think this kind of ties in. Sinbad asks, feels like they're using Trey Moore all over, not just really pass rushing. It's very funny that you mentioned that. One of the plays I saw on Saturday was literally Trey Moore pushing an offensive lineman to the ground in a pass rush situation. And then the very next play, I think he actually hit Colston Loveland and took him off his route.
Yep.
On a third down. I mean, so they are definitely using Trey Moore all over, but are y'all concerned simultaneously about the sack total? Because Jerry, you were talking about 39, 40 and all that stuff. They're through two games. They got one. And guess what? They've only given up 12 total points.
Yeah.
So this may not be a sack team after all, or teams are so worried about what Texas might be able to do. They're focusing on other opportunities. I don't know. We'll see. What do y'all think about Trey Moore?
I'll just say this, because I think you might be onto something there, Bobby. I think we all may have miscalculated, what the identity of the defense is going to be. I think what they do really well, this in the small sample size we have, is taking away a team strength. I mean, and I know they may not give you the splash plays that you want, but when you can take a top 20 passing team in Colorado State and their air raid attack and make them they had 74 yards passing overall, had more rushing yards than they had passing. I guarantee you for that air raid attack, that hadn't happened, if ever.
They abandoned the passing game, Rod.
Yes, and then you hold Michigan. Michigan, they less than 4 yards per rush or somewhere around there. I got to go look at it, but they were not a very efficient, effective running team. So you took away their identity. So taking away a team's identity and forcing them to beat you outside their comfort zone is really tough to do. And the only reason Texas can do that is because they're so versatile defensively that they're versatile. Everybody plays like multiple spots defensively. It can be used that way or deployed that way, right? You were just talking about the edges and how Anthony Hill can play on the edge, but also play off ball linebacker. And Trey Moore, he's not so specialized where he's got to be a pass rusher all the time. Like, no, we're going to drop him back in coverage, forcing offense to have to account for that. If a guy was real specialized, man, that's easy to game plan for. Guys are tough to game plan for. All the DBs are being cross-trained. All the D linemen are playing multiple shades up front. I think that's what they do well, man, is take away a team's strength. That's scheme, but also the versatility of the personnel.
Hey, here's Tedapari, guys, with one for us all. It's like, I got to put the right one up. Sark is all about speed, hot, nasty, bad, you know what, speed. Eleanor Roosevelt from Talladega Nights. That's actually a great movie. Great movie.
Hey, Bobby, I want to bring this one up, too. Thank you, UT boy, for the super chat.
Boy. Hey,
yeah, thank you very much. Diaper NIL for Grace, Rod B's little baby. What's up, Jerry? What you want to bring up?
I want to bring up Rick W's comment. Not to talk about Benda having a very good game. He did, obviously. But, Bobby, you sent a clip earlier today of him literally knocking the Michigan center on his ass. And when you're bringing that type of physical, Trey Moore's bringing physicality. Texas is bringing Rod as the most maybe upfront physicality from a front seven as I've seen in a while at Texas as a whole. I mean, you want to talk about, well, look, Michigan may have their issues offensively, but you're seeing Texas front seven defenders knock their guys on the ground. Knock them on the ground consistently in that game. They're bringing a different level of physicality right now. That's why I think Sark is so smiling ear to ear right now. As much as the
at defensive end and linebacker, yep. I agree with you because Jalen Ford was not. I mean, look, he's in the NFL, good player. I mean, right. we all agree with that, right? Almost Big 12 Player of the Year defensively, but he was not particularly physical.
No,
right? He was more of a gap filler, smart player. That not anti-physical. Don't get me wrong. But David Benda is a more physical player. He may not be as heady as Jalen Ford.
Right.
He overran a player too, but he actually, when he thumps you. And we know what Anthony Hill brings in that capacity. He's a little bit of that, he's got a little different feel to him. So I agree with that.
Early this season from a physicality standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff. All right. This one from Justin Yarbrough. Thanks for stepping in on that, Jared. Justin Yarbrough, by the numbers, we need 5 more guys to add to the class to be around 24 to 25 recruits, 1 wide receiver, 2 D-line, and 2 in the secondary. Any updates or new interest from recruits in the secondary? Jerry, we talked a little bit about this behind the scenes, but nothing that has come to fruition quite yet, I guess is the best way to put it. There, go ahead, give folks the update.
Yeah, I think so. Look, I will say this: Texas is certainly not with where they're at right now. They're not going to back off some of those 1A guys, and that could even be a couple of 1A guys that didn't even make it to campus for official visits in June. Texas will continue to recruit those guys while evaluating senior tape. We've seen Kenny Baker make 3 offers on the defensive line. I'm not going to be surprised if we don't see a couple of cornerback DB type of offers this season as the season moves along. Remember, Xavier Filsaime didn't have an offer till the Cotton Bowl last year. So it's not out of character for Texas to do that. And I do think that's going to happen. But, some of those big names, Texas is staying in contact with guys, and we'll see if they can get them to campus as the season moves along. They're remaining in contact.
All right, this one from Homegrown Cowboy. I keep hearing so-called OU experts saying Kyle Flood is overrated. Can anyone explain why they would say that? I don't know. He's got more national championships than Bill Beatonbaugh does.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
and his offensive line looks pretty good right now compared to OU's. Now, Beatonbaugh has a lot of skins on the wall. He does, but I don't think Kyle Flood's overrated. I think that's sour grapes a little bit right now because I think OU would trade their offensive line for Texas's in the New York Minute. You know what I mean? Right now, I don't think there's any doubt about that at this point. All right, a couple other questions here that I think we're going to be answering pretty briefly. Zach asked, Blue going to be okay? He came back in the game. We do believe he's going to be all right. Also, I wanted to add this. Jerry, I don't know if we mentioned this, or Rod, I don't know if we mentioned it in game or post game, but Jaden Chapman had a high number on so that he could be that extra tight end too and go a big look. So
Ooh.
Malik Ogbo has been that guy. I think he still is, but I wanted to add that little nugget because he had a double number availability on Saturday. So keep that in mind. That is a different move. Of sorts.
Might be up to something, huh?
Yeah. So just keep. I know you'll file that one away, Rod. All right. This one from Silver Spur. What is the chance on Arch playing in the game on Saturday? I think there's a high likelihood at this point. I think that they're going to look for Quinn. If you want they're going to look for Quinn and the offense to be highly efficient early, and really try to start hitting that gear. Incorporate Silas Bolden more, incorporate Ryan Wingo more, incorporate Amari Nyblack more, to add them to what has become a core of Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, Gunnar Helm, Jaden Blue, Trey Watt. I mean, more from Jarrett Gibson.
Yes.
Right? More, passing plays that Jarrett Gibson is, not just power runs. So I think that's what we're going to see. Yes, Arch would then play in that if Texas does get out to the lead that they would anticipate.
Because that's the thing, as well as the first 2 games have gone for Texas, this offense, I'm not sure it's even close to where it can go because, Rod, Quinn hasn't in game thrown the ball to Silas Bolden much at all. Amari Nyblack, Ryan Wingo. These things are going to come. These next 2 games, I'm not saying look, I'm not taking it for granted, but I just expect 100 and however many thousand Texas fans Saturday night to bring the energy this Texas team needs coming off an emotional win. This is when your crowd and your home crowd matters. I think this team, you're going to get this team fired up to play for you guys Saturday night. And that's big in this game. But so I think, to Bobby's point, I think Sark wants Quinn to continue to get rhythm with these new receivers. And that includes Bond. And that includes DeAndre Moore at the starters in Golden. I think he's got the best rapport with Golden and Helm right now. He wants these guys to continue to build, and that includes Wingo and getting Silas Bolden in and Mari Nyblack. Because this offense, Rod, I don't even think it's as close to where it can go as the season moves along.
Yep, totally agree, because you don't know defensively now who to take away, right? Who do I game plan to take away in this offense? I predicted, or at least I said, I don't know if I predicted, but I said it's possible this offense can have a different leading receiver half the games this season. And we're already well on our way for that being the case. And to your point, Jerry, what happens when, because Sark said the ball finds some players, it just finds them naturally. I mean, I think he's talking about the chemistry and the timing, continuity with the quarterback, and that's Golden. It's found him. All right, it's found Bun. I think they kind of force feed it to Bun too. Helm has now started to showcase himself, and he said the other guys, I got to find a way to scheme it to them because it's not naturally happening. And those guys you just mentioned, the Bowdens, the Armari Nyblacks, Ryan Wingo now, those are the guys I think in these next 2 games, and nothing against ULM, nothing against UTSA, but I think these are going to be games where they scheme open some other guys. And like I said, I think you're going to end up getting you're going to get another leading receiver, another player, not Helm, that's not I think it was Ryan Wingo led you in yards, I believe. In catches, it was Bond the first week. But you're going to have another leading receiver, I think, the next week, UTSA. It'll be somebody else. And that's how it goes.
I didn't have Gunnar Helm on my bingo card.
Nope.
On Saturday. Just
not at all.
Just put that out there. Not that I didn't think he was capable, but 40+ yards after the catch by your tight end. Pretty darn good. There's somebody, hey, by the way, somebody was arguing with me. I wanted to get y'all's take about this. Gunnar Helm, they said that Gunnar Helm was not faster than JT Sanders. I actually think he's faster than JT Sanders. JT Sanders is more of a possession type receiver, runs well after the catch, but I think Gunnar Helms is flat out faster.
Might be.
I mean, that's my take on it. Some people are going to say, Bobby's full of it. I do think that he's faster. This one for Blake May. I want to get to this one. Do you think Bo Davis is regretting his move yet? I don't think so. He just picked up a big commitment from Walter Mathis out of Savannah, Georgia over the weekend. They're doing just fine. LSU doing really good in recruiting. Maybe on the field he is, because they are not a good defense.
He lost his best guy for the season yesterday too, apparently.
Yeah, and so look, I don't think we'll see what happens over there. Nicholls State had a pretty good game against him apparently. But
Bobby, can I bring one up real quick?
Yeah, go for it, dude.
Emmanuel Villafranco, how's Mississippi State looking out? Brought to bring this up because I watched them last night against Arizona State. By the way, Arizona State's up for the most improved team in the country right now. And I'm not saying they're going to go win 8 games or be ranked in the top 25, but they're 2-0.
Yeah.
Their running back went for 270. Rod, he went off against Mississippi State.
Yeah,
Mississippi State, he had 270 rushing yards and like 300 all-purpose yards.
Yeah.
And Arizona State got up 27-3. I think I actually talked to somebody today about Mississippi State and on my drive, finishing my drive back from the Southeast region. And look, I think they may have some length of some SEC teams, but they may not be quite as big as some of those Mississippi State teams that we're accustomed to seeing. And Blake Shapen, he dropped his eyes a lot in that game when he felt pressure. That's not a good sign for Mississippi State.
Cam Scatterbo.
Remember that name.
For 262. Woo. That's a good day at the office now, and a long day. 33 carries, a lot in college football. All right, I got a couple more questions for you guys. Let's get this one first from our friend Ryan Nelson. Jerry, Bobby, Rod B. Jackson Arnold is Spencer Rattler 2.0, and that O-line is rough. Sark has revenge on his mind. This will be dog walking in Dallas. I will add this. I'll say this. I do think OU's offense right now is fundamentally challenged because they don't have playmakers at wide receiver when Nick Anderson's not there. Andrell Anthony's not the player he was. Farouk's out. So it is a different offense. Their offensive line is not what it's been under Bill Beatonbaugh historically. I don't know if Spencer Rattler is the right comparison there. I will just add all this. All this goes out the window when they play in October.
Yep.
I mean, I've been there, done that. It could be like last year where, frankly, Texas, turns the ball over twice early, and it becomes one of those games where it's blood and guts are lying on the field at the end of the game, and whoever wins, wins. I would say the one thing I do think is getting better significantly over time is they are transitioning right now to a defensive-led team.
Yep.
They are embodying their head coach.
I agree.
So, that is the move in there. And so if they get lucky, if they dial in on Sark, if Venables dials in, it could be an issue. But look, Texas is going to be heavily, heavily favored in that game.
Here's the thing, too, for Oklahoma. Their game, and they got Tulane, who's going to get K-State all they can handle Saturday. So Oklahoma's going to have to play better offensively Saturday. They should win the game, but they have to. They got to go out and do it. But in 2 weeks, Tennessee comes to Norman. Tennessee's really good. This is going to be a good barometer for OU. Tennessee's offensive line is really damn good. That running back runs really hard. Nico, while he's got a ways to go as a passer, and I think being in the offensive scheme where he really plays on half the field is helping him. He threw a couple of picks against NC State. He's kind of got a longer release, but he's got a live arm. But he's an exceptional athlete, smooth mover. That is going to test that Oklahoma defense. But Tennessee defensively is really going to test Oklahoma's offensive line and their ability to pass protect and give them time. Because Oklahoma doesn't have the running back guys to hand it off to help Jackson Arnold. So
DeMarco Murray has not recruited that position well for them.
Yep.
He just didn't.
Yeah, and Ryan Nelson brings up James Pierce for Tennessee. He's going to be a top 5 pick. He said over under 1.5 sacks against OU. I'm taking the over based on what I've seen. But if Tennessee thumps them, then they got to go to Auburn. And I know Auburn threw 5 interceptions and lost to Cal yesterday, but doubtful they'll throw 5 picks in a game again this year. That's a very tough place to play. Those 2 games are going to show you where OU's confidence is headed into the Cotton Bowl this year. Those are 2 Tennessee games really big for Oklahoma, I believe, from a confidence standpoint or lack thereof.
Rod, what do you think about the OU game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you about Brent Venables' defense. I got a lot of respect for Venables as a defensive mind. So I think in that game, he'll have something, dialed up for Sark. I think he did a great job. I even said, they pretty much outcoached Sark and his staff in that game. They did a really, really good job. Sark won't allow that to happen. So I think Sark will be in his bag early. But it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. If Jackson Arnold improves, they got a shot. But if he still continues to be careless with the football, this against that Texas defense that I'm watching with that secondary, I don't like the odds for him not to go out there and play at a high level against that Texas defense, because that's one of the best Texas defenses that we've seen early on. And I think by that time they play Oklahoma, they'll be even better. The group's going to be better.
All right, we got a couple more questions we're going to get to here on tonight's live stream. Thanks for watching on Texas Football's Sunday night live stream. We're brought to you by our friends over at Rogue Shop. Rod, right. Please do the honors.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Bobby. Yes, our good friends over at RogueShop.com. Really excited about them being a part of the On Texas Football family. Rogue Shop bringing you real plant medicine and bringing it back to its roots, folks. Rogue Shop have basically a business that can ship nationwide. They can go anywhere in the country. You can make sure you use the promo code On Texas for that special discounts. The Rogue Shop has it all, folks, from oils and creams to flour and gummies. Again, that's RogueShop.com. Use that code On Texas for a special discount at RogueShop.com. We appreciate them sponsoring our Sunday night live stream.
Love it, guys. Love hearing people sponsoring us. That just makes everything possible on a weekly basis here. Let's go to Mike Gosnell, if you don't mind. How do you think Sark gets Jonte Cook more involved, and do you think he's content in his current role? That's from Mike Gosnell, guys.
Well, no receiver is content in their role. Every receiver thinks they need the ball more. Even the receivers who are the number 1 receivers for their team, they still believe they should be getting the ball more. So that's a receiver thing. But Sark I thought Sark has done a really good job so far of at least, now I know in terms of productivity, everybody may want more prolific stats, more targets, more receptions. But in terms of the roles the guys are starting to fill, right? Matthew Golden, as Jerry mentioned, clearly the red zone guy. Seems like, Gunnar Helm, that he's going to be one of those, maybe a third down weapon, and also someone Quinn looks to when he's in a little bit under duress or in distress. It seems like early on Bond's going to be the guy that Sark wants to the catalyst for sometimes the vertical passing game. Like you want to get things going versus Michigan. He had the first double move and got it going downfield. So it's like everybody's going to be able to find their role and their niche in the offense. But I think Jonte Cook, something tells me this next game, or if UTSA or ULM, we get that Jonte Cook game where he's one of the guys that makes some of the big plays and they're force feeding the football to him. I feel like that's going to be the case going forward. And I love this Sark says about the reps, what he tells guys about reps, right? He says, don't count your reps, make your reps count. All right. I love that. It is. And it makes so much sense, right? Just make your reps count, man. Just focus on that because all these guys have a ton of talent, NFL caliber talent. And the fear is that, well, if I don't get enough, make enough plays and get enough catches, will the NFL look at me? Will I get that NFL, will I get the evaluation from the scouts? And I think Sark's trying to let them know, like, hey, man, no, you're going to be fine. We're developing that pipeline. NFL scouts are going to come here to see you. And that's the concern for players is that, am I getting enough looks and reps so the NFL scouts will see me? And I think Sark's has got to be able to deal with that paranoia, if you will, from players.
Got a text today that talking about guys filling roles that still have the scouts looking at them. Mm-hmm. Jordan Whittington returning kicks tonight for the Rams. I just think about that, right? He didn't return kicks for Texas. All right, this one from Colin Davis, guys. How many of our O-line, our 5 O-line starters will get drafted? Doesn't have to be this year. And how many in rounds 1 to 3? Jerry, I'll let you do this one if you don't mind, please, sir.
Well, I think the top 6, if Cole Hudson stays healthy, I could see 5 guys getting drafted. Ooh. Of the 6. How many in the first 2 third rounds? I think Kelvin Banks and Cam Williams will be those guys.
Yeah, I think those are the 2 definites in those rounds. And the reason I say that is because Kelvin Banks is going to be that we already know, right? But Cam Williams is such a supersized guy. It's going to be hard. They're going to take him as a tackle and say at the very worst he can play guard.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Y'all watch the game again. Take away his nerves.
Oh,
and by the way, we haven't talked about it. Was that actually a hold on y'all's second watch, or was that BS?
I didn't see the other side. They didn't show the other side of it where I could see the
right arm. Yeah, to Rod's point, they didn't show the right arm.
Yeah.
So talk about Cam Williams on your second watch. He is dominant in the run game, guys.
Yeah, he is. Agreed. No, he's a force.
My take on it was he had 3 penalties on the first drive. Okay. And then he settled down and had just one more the rest of the game. Now, the game wasn't in doubt after halftime. So there was the crowd wasn't as into it. They weren't playing in front of, the A&M crowd in Kyle Field with a swang back and forth. It was more normalized, I guess, for lack of a better term. But there were a couple times in pass pro where literally he knocked his guy into the defensive tackle. Not the end, but he knocked the edge into the tackle.
Yes.
That knocked over. I think it knocked over Cole Hudson too. I mean, He just collapsed the whole side, and I was like, "Huh." I mean, it almost looked like a hold, but it wasn't a hold. He just knocked the what out of somebody, and it looked like bowling pins going down afterwards. Right? Like wow, is there a hold in there somewhere? But anyways, I think that Jerry's likely right. And I think there are more draft picks in the underneath classes too, not just the starters, to Jerry's point. All right, guys, any final thoughts? Longhorns, we mentioned this at the outset, up to number 2 in the AP poll. ESPN FPI, they're number 1. Big win over Michigan. Consecutive years with credibility attached wins nationally.
Yeah,
I mean, you played this. I know this is crazy, but it reminds me of the Miami Hurricanes. And I'm not saying this is the same talented level, but they would go on the road and play anybody early in the year and win. You know what I mean? And they weren't always part of college football's elite leading up to that, and then all of a sudden they were again. And you just don't go on the road in consecutive years and beat Alabama and Michigan. It doesn't. Those are the two most winningest programs of all time in college football.
I'm going to read y'all three things. I tweeted them out this morning. Texas 31-12 victory at Michigan was the first win on the road versus defending national championship for Texas since they won at Nebraska in '98. Okay, I know it's not the same Michigan team. It wasn't the same Nebraska team, but Nebraska was really good. With the 31-12 win at Michigan, Texas became the first team to beat an AP poll top 10 ranked opponent in back-to-back seasons on the road since Notre Dame in 05-06. And then the third one, Quinn Ewers is the only quarterback to claim road victories at Alabama and at Michigan in a college football career as a starting quarterback.
Wow. That's a good one. That last one that's a great stat.
Yeah, you got to think there haven't been that many have had the opportunity.
Right? I agree, but still.
Frankly, what's really interesting is neither of those two teams were in Texas's conference. Jerry mentioned Joe Burrow, and he beat Alabama when he was in the SEC. He didn't beat, but Ohio State beat Michigan when he was in Columbus.
Right.
They were conference foes. Neither one of these two at the time were conference foes, which is really unique. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the Sunday night live stream. We'll be back tomorrow with coffee and football starting early. Jerry's got some news and notes from his trip down to the southeastern part of the United States. We've also got some good guest lines up, as well as a number of other things. Steve Sarkisian has his weekly press conference at around 11. CJ will be back in the saddle for that for us. We'll have that and more. Rod, you and Coach Shipley, as well as CJ, have the winning drive tomorrow afternoon. It is going to be a smorgasbord of good news for the Longhorns because it was a big win over Michigan this weekend. All right, for Jerry as well as Rod Babers, and our producer Matt Hutchison, this has been On Texas Football. We appreciate you guys. Have a good week, man. Hook 'em.